Jacob, so you've seen these figures today, simply eye-watering numbers. £100,000, their salaries have doubled. The annual salary bill has grown by 60% to now £17 billion per year. Jacob, is it time to squash the blob?
Oh, very much so. When I was Minister for Government Efficiency, working closely with Steve Barclay, who's now Health Secretary, we had a plan to reduce the civil service by 91,000 to get it back to 2015-16 levels. And if you have the pressure to reduce, then actually you do begin to bring things down. If you don't have that pressure, it just grows like Topsy. And that's the problem at the moment. No one's trying to reduce it, and therefore it just inexorably grows. And that's bad news for taxpayers.
Jacob, I think when people put their their cross in the Conservatives' box at the ballot, they assume that a Conservative government will reduce the size of our civil service, reduce the size of Whitehall, reduce public spending. How has a Conservative government allowed this to happen? It's a massive increase in just a few years.
It is, and it's bad news. And Conservatives have actually been very good in the past at reducing the civil service. Michael Heseltine did a fabulous job in 1979 when he became Environment Secretary. And Francis Maude in the Cabinet Office under David Cameron, again, was excellent at reducing the civil service. Ministers focused on cutting the size of the blob, and then it can really happen. And as I say, that's what I was doing under Boris Johnson's orders a year ago, and we were beginning to see some reduction. And unfortunately, that pressure has just been given up on. It's evaporated.
Jacob, you're a man with your eye over the whole brief of the civil service. In fact, you were going around putting notes on their desks telling them to get back away from their cappuccinos and their pyjamas and get back into the office. In terms of the departments in question, where do you think the fat can be trimmed?
I think that's a good question. I think working from home inevitably increases the number because it is now clear that working from home is not as productive. Now, I say that whilst I'm at the moment broadcasting from my own constituency.
I was just about to point that out, Jacob. You beat me to it.
There are occasions when working from home may be beneficial, so I'm not entirely against it. But that we are not getting the delivery of public services that we need. If you deal with the land registry, for instance, or the probate department, you're not getting a decent service, and I think that is at least in part because of people working from home. Where do you make the cuts? Well, you simply look through the extra layers that you've got within the civil service that you don't have in business. You try and remove those, and you try and focus on delivering services, and that means using more technology. DVLA, interestingly, has done really well on that. So if you're applying for anything from DVLA that doesn't require human intervention, is done in an automated way, the turnarounds are really very quick. So it's using technology, using AI, it's getting rid of middle management and having a leaner and fitter civil service. Yeah. Oddly, the one thing I wouldn't complain about is some of the rises in salaries. If we can get to a smaller civil service, then having a better paid one is perfectly reasonable. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're getting a better paid and bigger civil service, which is the worst of all worlds.
Yes, we have both, don't we?
Yeah, I wonder if the expansion of the civil service, a lot of people are saying it's because they were after Boris and they were after Dominic. Because they're after revenge. Do you think, Jacob, that the civil service has become politicised? We hear a lot about their stance on Brexit, for example. We hear a lot about their stance then being pro-borders being open, refugees welcome, and also pro-net zero. Is part of the problem not just the size and the wage bill, but the actual mindset?
I think there's a lot in that, and I think there's a lot in some of the constitutional changes that were made that has taken power away from elected people, from ministers, and given it to the unelected, given it to people in arm's length bodies which are not under direct ministerial control and have been some of the biggest areas of growth. And they run essentially independently of government and are not politically controlled by the government of the day and have their own views about things. I mean, look at Natural England and bodies like that that seem to run and engender entirely of their own.